Let's imagine like this is the ground. We're going to talk about how costly the investment is to start. So for the short-term out-of-the-money option, that's close to the ground. So the amount you can lose is just the distance to the ground. It's not very much, but that's a very high percentage because you can go all the way to the ground with a very small movement. If an option is very expensive, generally what that means is that it's either far in the money, has a long time to expire, or both. And in that case, that same amount of movement, even though it might be the same loss, you still have a long way to go and a lot of time for that to correct. So with the more expensive options, with the long-term, in-the-money options, you have a lot of time for something to happen. With the short-term, out-of-the-money options, you have a very small amount of time for something to happen. Let's think of the short-term option as like a birthday balloon. It only has a short time left. Although they're very cheap, you can lose them very suddenly. The long-term option, that can be something like a blimp. I'm not going to be able to draw a blimp. These have a long way to go and are a little bit more resistant to the wind blowing. When the stock goes up, that's like an updraft, lifting both of them up. With a 1 mile an hour updraft, which we can say is like changing the price by $1, that's only going to move the blimp up a little bit, but that might move the balloon up a lot. There's also downdrafts. With the balloon, it might drop very suddenly, whereas the blimp is only going to change a little bit. Your long-term in-the-money option, which has a very high starting price, also tends to have a higher delta. Maybe the delta would be 0.8 in this case. Let's say like we were to buy this and it would have cost us $100 per share, which is $10,000. For the short-term out-of-the-money option, we'll say that this is like $2 per share, which means this is a $200 investment. My delta might be lower, like 0.2. If I have a 1 mile an hour updraft, although this changes by 80 cents, that's 80 cents over a $10,000 investment. Whereas if this changes by 20 cents, that's 20 cents over a $200 investment, which ends up being a much bigger change. You can kind of think about your theta as like a leak. That's just air going out. If the price stays flat and there's no wind at all, the balloon is still going to kind of work its way towards the ground and crash, and the blimp is also going to kind of work its way towards the ground and crash. But because the blimp is higher up, it has a lot more time before that happens. Your total dollar loss on a long-term in-the-money option may be higher, but there's a lot more time for that to happen, and there's more time for you to react and to correct against it. Your total dollar loss on the short-term option tends to be lower dollars, but it's higher percentage-wise. So if you buy a lot of these, you can lose a lot of money very fast. But this is, again, kind of like your lottery ticket. Low chance to win, low entry cost. This is more like an actual investment into something. Because there is generally an uptrend long-term in the market, you will capture a little bit more value more often than not than for a short-term option. Also, if there's a sudden price this week and a rise next week, your long-term option can catch that, whereas your short-term option is going to expire and pop before next week gets here.